if you could show yourself on the screen. Hey, Mary Frances, I'm so glad you could be with us tonight. We are about celebration, we are about inspiration, and we are about expansion tonight. And I'd like to also introduce Katrina Mayers, who is another member of our advisory team. I also want to introduce the speakers who are going to speak to you tonight about their perspectives after they read the book. I'd like to introduce Leslie Maitre Caniff, and Dr. Debbie Coles, and the Reverend Ladane McLeese Pulaski. I also want to introduce the donors tonight. And the donors are those who have contributed from their hearts, pieces of themselves. And the first is a young and budding, wonderful artist, Emma Mansfield. And she took a quote from the book and she elaborated on it and used beautiful watercolor prints to elaborate on it and make it something truly inspirational. And then Christy Gannett with Vibey Soap, who took our ideas and our colors, the teal to celebrate domestic violence abuse, the saffron to celebrate light, as did Emma, and took those and created a custom survivor soap for us. And so I celebrate that as well and introduce to you Christy Gannett. And before I move forward into lighting our candles, I wanted to be sure that you have your candle and you're ready to move into community with us. Awesome. And so if you would take this moment, I invite you to light your candle so that we can all celebrate community together. I'm so glad that you're here with us. Thank you for joining us. And I'd like to ask at this time, Tambry, would you help us toast?
Thank you. So as Tori said, I mean, each one of you all have been on the journey. As I look at the different faces on the screen right now, I think about how you've seen me along the journey. I'm so grateful that
You're muted. Unmute.
There I am. There were 104 people who helped contribute to the Kickstarter campaign, and I'm just incredibly grateful for all of that. So they, and then there were 15 people who actually reviewed the book and given me those reviews to be able to publicize, and that meant so much to me. So thank you for that as well. It's been really special that a lot of people who were reviewing, who helped me publish the book, they would tell me about how their hearts were already touched. And so I think about the lives that have already been touched and the lives that will come with this. So the other thing I would say is that I just really appreciate your advocacy, your support for me, your advocacy of this work, the advocacy of this book, and just being here tonight to celebrate with us. So here's to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, it is most certainly a time for celebration and a reason to toast. At this time, I have a couple of on-the-spot questions to ask you, Tambry. as we move forward.
Picture up, Tori. I don't see you.
I'm sorry?
I don't see you, so I don't think others can see you either. So you can get your picture up. While Katie Ann's working on that, you can certainly talk to me, but I wanted to make sure we got. There you are. Okay.
I'm back.
There you
All right,
go.
so I've got some on the spot questions to ask you, okay? Because I know that there are a lot of questions that our audience has around the book. I know that in the many years that I've known you, those many years that I've known you, and the many journeys that you and I have been on, and the soul sisters that we are. So as we moved forward, as you began your retreat preparation, and as I participated in your first retreat, and as I was touched beyond measure, and moved into healing in my own journey with your retreat. And then as I moved forward from that to partner with you and watch you as you spoke to the athletes at Lenoir-Rhyne and saw the impact that you had on the students there, and moving forward, the even further impact that you could have, the outreach that was possible, and the potential of you being able to share your story and use your voice so bravely and so confidently. Share with all of us on the call right now, how did this book come to be?
You know, it's been an evolution. And as you were talking, Tori, you talked a little bit about that evolution. It was 3 years ago when it was put on my heart to do something in this space. The hashtag #MeTooHands started going up 3 years ago. And I had this torn feeling because part of me was so happy to see people find their voice, or at least be able to raise their hands and say, yes, it happened to me too. But I wondered, and then what? I mean, are you thriving? Are you living your full life? Or are you like I was, where I was stuck with these limiting beliefs and finding myself in these unhealthy patterns? And so I just really wanted to use my gifts and abilities to try and support individuals who may have experienced and suffered from the trauma of sexual abuse. So it started with the retreat that Tori mentioned, and I really wanted to create space for people to do that level of exploration. And as I communicated that out to people, the availability of these retreats or the one-on-one work, what happened was I started being invited to speak at various places. I was invited to speak at churches. I was invited to speak at Lenoir-Rhyne. And so as that happened, I continued to be able to find my voice. And as I found my voice, I got more confident in being able to tell my story and to encourage others. What then happened was the two pieces came together. And in the book, what happened was the first part of the book is my story, which many times after I would speak at fundraisers or again, other kinds of gatherings, people would come up to me and say, your story is my story. And you give me the courage to really do the healing work. And when you hear those kind of things, it just makes you want to open yourself up even more. So in the first part of the book, I talk about my journey and my path and the struggles that I had, but then also the ways I was able to overcome those obstacles. And so I take the reader along with me to see that it's possible. It is not easy, but it's possible. And then the second half, I actually incorporated the retreat. And so then the reader can actually, they hear my voice almost going with them as they do their work and begin to look at their limiting beliefs and look at their maybe unhealthy patterns so they can reclaim their going forward story. And this was really just somewhat of an evolution, but what was really cool was that as I thought about it, I thought, think about how many people I can reach through a book. How many people might really want to be able to do this work from the comfort and safety of their own home? And as I've worked with one-on-one with people, I've noticed that some people need more time at different steps. And so it also allows people to do the work at their own pace. So for all those reasons, I didn't really strategize around that. It happened. It's always felt very God-led, but I really am very excited about kind of how it's evolved and where we are now.
It is so exciting. Hold on, I'm starting my video again. I
Great.
agree. It is so exciting to be part of your journey and on this team. So share with our viewers right now, what are some of the surprises that you've had along the way? Because I know that there have been many.
There have been so many wonderful surprises and things that would encourage me, because oftentimes, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I'll start doubting or I'll have questions. And about that time, something really amazing happens and it just kind of spurs my heart and spurs me along. So as I reached out around the Kickstarter campaign, that was a real stretch for me to do that. But then what happened was I had people, I mean, not only from across the United States, but I had someone from the Netherlands support me. I had someone from Canada. And the Netherlands, Giovanni said, Tamara, you don't need to send me the book because I know it's expensive to send it. And I said, I want you to have the book. I want people in the Netherlands to know about this. So how exciting is that? And he and I were emailing back and forth. And I said, I'd love to have you join me. And he said, I would love to be there, but it's 1:00 a.m. on Monday morning. So I'll have to watch the recording. So but to feel his warmth and his support of this work, and Jonathan in Canada also was equally supportive, and I just was really touched by that. And then some other things that surprised me. So when you go through the process of writing a book, you have the publisher who's working with you and trying to help you sound really smart and be very compelling. But then one of the last steps is you have a proofreader. And the proofreader is to be very objective, to make sure that your sentences are, full sentences and all of that. Well, the proofreader actually felt so touched by my book that he actually emailed my publisher and said, thank you for the honor of being able to review this book. It's so compelling. It's so well written. It spoke to his heart. And I could not believe that, this person who was reading it for objective reasons ended up being touched subjectively and sharing. And he felt so compelled to share with me. And so when I emailed him to thank him about that, he said, I feel like I'm speaking to an old friend that I haven't met yet. And that's exactly what I want when I have readers, people read the book, is they feel me, they feel my heart, and they feel my story, and they feel like they've kind of been on the journey with me. So again, that was a complete surprise, but really loved that aspect. And I think I mentioned earlier, Tori, 104 people supported the Kickstarter, and that just feeling that outswelling of support just really was just really special.
I thought that was awesome. I agree. 104 supporters blew both of our minds. I totally agree. Thank you again to those of you on the call because you were the supporters. Yay. Netherlands and Canada. Who would have imagined this far reaching? I mean, that was phenomenal. And I love the fact that you touched even the one who was proofreading. I mean, that was just precious. So aside from the surprises, what else have you learned from writing this book?
Well, it's probably not a surprise to everyone on this call that I'm still a work in progress. And as I was writing the book, I kept learning things about myself. And as I continued to find my voice and share it, that in and of itself helped me work through one of my limiting beliefs, which was I'm not worthy. And as I think about it, and as people read the book and talked about how it touched their hearts and how much it helped them, it showed me that my story, my path, my journey, my life is just that it's worth this. It's worth what I'm trying to put out. So I'm working against, or I'm kind of resetting all of those worthiness messages for myself. Another message that I had was that I have to do everything on my own. I can't rely on anybody. I've got to do it all myself. So when I have 104 people come forward and say, we believe in you, we believe in what you're doing, we want to support you, we want to support this effort, you don't have to do this alone. That was another huge growth piece for me to rewrite those messages and say, I have a community. I have a community of support, and all of this love is undergirding me. And that has just really buoyed me through this process.
Oh, and truly. Hold on, am I on again?
Not yet.
Close.
There you are.
On again. There I am. Okay. Yes. No, that is huge. 104 supporters. Yes. Huge. Blew our minds. Agreed. Netherlands and Canada. Totally agreed. Which is why you and I both thought that that song, Rise Up, was just so powerful and impactful. So I want to encourage anybody who has a question for Tambry now to go ahead and submit it in the chat. We're going to be answering those questions later. And I want to ask this last question. So tell me, for whom is this book written?
My first audience are my 20-somethings, my 20-something survivors who are at the beginning of their lives, and I want them to know that they are worth the investment of looking and doing the healing work. I really hope that because what happened to me was I didn't, and I ended up making life decisions with those negative beliefs that I was just sharing with you. And so if I can speak into the lives of 20-somethings and encourage them to do their healing work before they make some of those life decisions, you know, with the Lenore Ryan group, I mean, just seeing the light bulbs go on. And anyway, so that's one of my populations. Another is those individuals who might be in a place of, whether it be midlife, but they've gotten to the place where they realize this is not working for me. You know, I find myself in these repeated patterns. I want to really kind of claim my going forward story. That's the other group that I really would hope. What I would say is that people who have read the book, although my trauma was sexual abuse, I will tell you that there are, of course, a variety of types of trauma. And so I've been told that really this book speaks to anyone who wants to examine the trauma and kind of move, if there are limiting beliefs that are kind of residual from that, to really look at those and move forward. One of the things that I talk about in the book is the fact that I really think it's important for us to look at mind, body, spirit and take a holistic approach to healing. And what's been really nice is I've reached out to experts in those fields, and I've gotten feedback that yes, they support that. They really do see that. So therapists saying, Tambry, this is a tool that will be so valuable to us, and we could see our communities utilizing this. Medical practitioners saying, you know, this is something we need to, as a medical community, see the whole of a person, and this is a part of this is part of what we would want this book to be able to reach people that we might see have underlying issues that might be impeding their healing. And then lastly, talking to faith leaders saying, again, this is something that we could see ourselves using, and thinking about the value that could come if we can get more people to be aware of it. So to elaborate upon that, what I'd like to do is invite our experts to share their reading of the book and what they see for their particular community. So I mentioned mind, body, spirit. So I'm going to start with mind and invite Leslie Maitreyi-Caniff. Leslie has been she has been doing psychotherapy in Charlotte for years. She's recently joined Southeast Psych, and she's especially interested in the areas of trauma and somatic healing. I'll tell you, Leslie and I also worked for, by the way, Andy, love your text and your question, and we're going to definitely get to that as far as having packets of information for people. That's exactly, I love that. Thank you. So Leslie we met in spiritual direction. So we know that Leslie absolutely values the whole of the person and the mind, body, spirit piece. And so I'm going to hand it over to Leslie to talk to us for a little bit.
Aw, that's awesome. First of all, I want to say I'm so proud of you, Tambry. I shaking with you. You know, I'm excited. It's mostly excitement, a little nervous. Your contribution has been so generous and just beautiful. Thank you for the community. Thank you for therapists, spiritual leaders, as you say, but everyone, survivors. You're right. There's all kinds of trauma. we have COVID-19 trauma right now, sexual, physical abuse, but also childhood abuse, attachment trauma, relational trauma, spiritual trauma, financial trauma, political trauma. I mean, just the sky's the limit. And your book is really a journey. Even, I love that it's so personal. We can really connect to your heart, and just feel for you, but also at the same time, I think people have the chance to really look at their own experience too, and see where they can make some parallels, and just really see how you can work towards that freedom from the abuse that we've experienced. I think that, as a psychotherapist, I do support the mind, body, spirit for sure. As you guys know, people that know me, I think that it's so important to make a safe space, and just through that to have self-exploration, and just really begin to understand how the conscious and unconscious mind and how we think about our past could be keeping us stuck in old patterns. We kind of know we are, but we don't know how that's happening. And Tambry's therapist did this with her, but she was also so brave and willing, to go there and do the work. So I really want you to hear that I'm so proud of you. As a therapist, I call this process the reconsolidation of traumatic memory. And, that's just the therapist concept that's pretty powerful, really. It's a lot to do with neuroscience and rewiring the brain, but ultimately you want to be able to have a felt sense of the act of triumph, being able to kind of write a different ending to the story, and to attach a new experience to it, more of what you want. And you've done that over and over again. I mean, the beauty of this presentation, your book, the candle, I mean, toasting, toasting yourself and inviting us all to do it with you. Those are acts of triumph. And we see you, and we feel that alongside with you, that, walking out of the darkness, out of that pain, which is a continuing process. I understand that. But you're definitely on the other side, and you're not going back. And thank you for bringing so many people with you, awakening the light. I love that. And moving forward, survivor to thriver. And when you fall back down, you get back up again, and you just keep moving forward. And that's awesome. So congratulations, and you go, girl.
Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate it.
I don't know if that was 3 minutes, and I don't know if I talked about what I wrote, but I think I did. That mindful moments. I said, I am a mindfulness-based body-centered therapist. So mindfulness is, you really can't do anything without the ability to be present with your experience long enough to explore it. So
Yeah, Leslie, that was one of the things I really did try and emphasize in the book, is that so many times when we're traumatized, we tend to just, I know I cut my head off and just didn't even acknowledge that I had a body. I just lived in my head. And so the process of moving into my body and integrating is so important. And so I did try and really incorporate that into the book to try and teach people these mindful moments so that they could begin to embody that themselves and develop that within themselves. So these are all practices. It's not something that just happens. You really have to work at it. So, yeah, thank you.
Powerful. The mindful moments in the book I love those, are so powerful. And I love how you just kind of say, let's take a moment and step back and check in with yourself and see how you're doing. And it's so important, because it's pretty scary entering the body when the body's been invaded, and it's scary. It's just scary. So we've got to come back to this moment. And that's really the only place that we're going to make change, and to realize that we have a choice. And it takes a lot of practice. And I'm practicing daily. I'm practicing right now, actually.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tambry. I hope that's what you wanted.
You did great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. So next I'm going to introduce Debbie. Dr. Debbie Coles is an internal medicine primary care provider, and what she how she operates is what I am actually noticing more medical practitioners to do. She's always looked at the whole of a person, and she really recognized the fact that somebody's physical health could impact, I mean, their mental health could impact their physical healing. And so understanding what all the person is going through. And I've noticed that my primary practitioner has started kind of taking a little more of a holistic approach and asking me questions that are a little broader in, so that she can understand everything that's going on with me. So thank you, Debbie, for being with us. And please tell us a little bit about your take on the book.
Thanks, Tambry. I appreciate you asking me to be here. I am a primary care internist, and early on in medicine, I learned that practicing medicine was like detective work. You were given a lot of symptoms and then asked to find the cause, and sometimes that's easy. Someone has a sore throat, and you do a culture, it comes back strep, and you can treat it easily. Other times, those symptoms are a little bit more difficult, and the common things are ruled out, and yet the patient still doesn't feel well. And oftentimes we put them on medications or try to treat the symptoms, but to me that wasn't always helpful or helpful for the long run. I didn't want somebody dependent on a medication to be able to function or live their life to the fullest. And so I tried to dig a little bit deeper. And if I said it once, I probably said it 40 times. Your head is connected to your body. And, you know, there's no obvious difference where the head doesn't affect the rest of the body. And so starting to delve into that, all of course in 15 minutes, which is why I chronically ran late, took a little bit more insight and questioning and trying to really see what was going on with someone. Sometimes they were accepting of that. Other times you might spend 30 minutes convincing them that it's okay that they're having physical symptoms from something that happened to them in the past. And that's one place I really see where your book is going to help tremendously. It's non-threatening. It's easy to read. It gives someone else's story. And so they're able to compare and see, you know, do my symptoms, you know, go along with this? Could it possibly be that whatever I'm feeling could be a result of what happened to me? So it's really a great way to kind of delve into that. Again, non-threatening, and also allowing people to work at their own pace. You know, people can take it as fast or as slow as they need to do it. And so I think it'll be really great once you discover that some of these symptoms may be due to other things and are due to other things, trauma that happened at any point in their life, that we can give them this and then refer them to other people that can really help them delve into it if that's what they need.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. That was something I really did have to get my head around, was that whether it be headaches, whether it be stomach issues, whether it be, you know, back pain, I mean, joint pain. I couldn't do yoga for years. And a lot of times they say trauma is stored in the body, particularly in the joints. And so as you begin to look at these things, you begin to recognize that, some of these things can be worked through without, maybe the physiological risk, what do you call it, solutions, and it's more the mental emotional solutions. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think one thing that a number of experts have all said is the body never forgets.
Yes.
And so while you can kind of put it out of your mind, your body harbors all of that. And, it's going to come back and have its effects later on.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we want to really encourage people to do the work and to feel hopefully a friendly voice, like the proofreader felt a friendly voice to take them along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Debbie. I appreciate it. The last reviewer that I'd like to introduce is Ladane I'm sorry, Ladane, I messed your name up. McLeese Pulaski. And Ladane is an ordained minister. She's also the executive director of Mecklenburg Metropolitan Interfaith Network, which is also called MECMEN here in Charlotte. And her organization really tries to unite all the various houses of faith here in Charlotte around social justice and other types of action. And so she's going to speak to us from the spirit perspective.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. So Tambry mentioned earlier in this session something that she and I were talking about on Friday, which is that she's been a little bit surprised at the number of people who have really related to the book, despite the fact that their particular kind of trauma was something different. It wasn't sexual abuse. It was something else that had happened. And when we were talking about that on Friday, I was reminded of that paradoxical truth that the more particular we are, the more universal we are. And that I think that when we're able to tell a true story, that it helps to tap into, in a really powerful way, into the true story. And by that, I don't mean like the true story of some particular religious faith, but the true story of what it is to be human. And what it means to be human in a world that has both deep joy and bruising pain. And so I'm not at all surprised that people who have experienced other kinds of trauma are finding the book to be helpful, because I think Tambry has done such a lovely job of being so authentic and so honest and so particular in what she shares, that it's inviting us into a true story. And I think when you're invited into a true story, you really feel that you know, oh, this is true. This is an authentic, real story. And one of the things that I think that why that's so powerful is that as you, Tambry, as you talk about your discovery of divine love and a divine presence that's been with you even through the hardest times, it's believable because by the time we get to that part of your story, we know that you are telling us truth, that that you're being authentic. And I think I had mentioned to you that there's one of the stories that you tell that I found so powerful was a meditation where you saw this dark cave and were willing to enter into the dark cave with God, and then the walls just melt away. And I just found that to be such a powerful image. But in part, it's a powerful image because, like, you've told us truthfully about the darkness, right? Like, we know your dark cave isn't, oh, I lost the grocery list, right? Your dark cave is dark. And so I think that when we're talking about why the book works on that spiritual level, it's because you've been so honest about the darkness that we can believe you when you talk about the light. And so one of the things I was thinking about is that I think that the book, and some of the survival quotes you've had on here kind of point to that, that if you're reading the book and you're not there yet, if you haven't experienced God as loving, if you haven't experienced God as kind, if you haven't found your own sense of light, you can believe it's possible, because of the way Tambri's told the story, because she's been honest, because she's been true, because you've been recognizing all along that this is a true story. It just becomes believable that you too could learn how to embrace yourself as a beloved child of God, and that you too could, whatever the image is for you, maybe the image of the cave works, maybe it's something completely different, but for me the book really works on a spiritual level because the darkness has been real. You can believe that the light is possible even if you're not there yet. And the other thing that I think that is helpful, I think the book will be super helpful, of course, to any of us who have experienced abuse. But also, if you're in a relationship with a survivor and that's not your history, and you want to know, like, what is this? What is this stuff that's coming up? I think it would be a great book to read if you love somebody who has been through trauma. Would be so helpful to have this story. And then of course, faith leaders, every faith leader has people that they minister to who have been through things like this. And again, if that's not your story, if that's not something you've experienced, what a gift to have such an honest and helpful story to be able to share. And the final thing I would say is that I think it's so helpful that the book moves from being Tambri's story to being your story. And that, sometimes I've read stuff that's, it's helpful, but there's never that part where like I get to kind of claim my own power and my own experience. And I think the book does such a nice job of balancing Tambri's very helpful and powerful story with me becoming the main character in my own story. So I just think it works so well on that spiritual level. And I'm grateful to have it out in the world where it's going to be, I think, a real blessing to a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Ladaine. I appreciate you bringing in what I call the supporter category. When I talk often, I'll talk to survivors and then I'll say, because we know 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men are survivors of sexual abuse. And so, then I look at the audience and say, and if it didn't happen to you, it happened to someone close. And so that puts you in the supporter category. And so to your point, sometimes it's hard for supporters to really understand. And that was when I did try and go into a little bit of detail around some things just to help people understand how memories might come up or how your body might respond, so that people who haven't had that experience can understand. Or to Debbie's point, if they have had it, they understand it's not just them, that it's
Right.
it's something that's going on. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So I've seen a couple of questions coming, and so what we'll do, but first, before we move to the questions, we want to tell you real quick about what's coming up. First of all, we have reached out to independent bookstores. Right now, the book is available. We'd love for people to go to our website to get it, because that way you can see our website and there's a book tab that you can get the book, but it is available at Amazon. But it's also available at these independent bookstores. So for example, in Charlotte, Park Road Books has it. So we're reaching out to as many as we can. And so if you know of independent bookstores that you can get us connected to, let us know. We're also doing, right now we're working with East Carolina University to do a Zoom event for their students and then have this book as available to them. And so we really want to grow that. We think that'll be a great model for other universities to use. We're making outreach to various organizations. For example, there's an organization called Safe Alliance here in Charlotte, and they are a support to women who have escaped domestic violence. And so working with them on some different programmatic things that they can do for their survivors. We have a vision of having a book club study guide. That's probably going to be a 2021 thing, but I think about small groups going through this again, especially if you look at it from a kind of broader trauma perspective, but a small group like 4 or 5 people who could really share in a heart way and walk through the book could be something really powerful. So we're going to create a study guide for that. We're also going to be expanding some website resources. So we have a few resources right now. We've got blogs twice a month, and then we also have information about our one-on-one as well as our retreats. We'd like to make it a little more robust with some expanded resources. And finally, we're hopeful we're going to be submitted for some literary competitions. I've been told that we have, based just the look of the book, the way the book is crafted, and the stories within the book, perhaps we'll be recognized for some of that. So I'll let you know about that. So Tori, do you want to open this up for some more questions? I know I've seen a couple of it have been coming through the chat box. I know I saw one that asked about church libraries, and the answer is yes. We actually are talking to a couple of local churches too that are going to be buying them for their resource library. So absolutely.
I think that's great. And I just wanted to give a shout out. We got people from Fort Mill, from Charleston, from Hendersonville, from Charlotte, Kernersville. We got people on tonight from all over. That's just awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna throw a couple. We got Wilmington even. I forgot about that. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here too. All right, so I'm gonna throw a couple more questions at you. Where can we buy the book?
Mm-hmm. So again, I prefer you to go to the website and order it through the website, but we can do it at Amazon or go to your call your local independent bookstore. And if I got an Auburn person, I'm sorry, couldn't help but see that. Auburn in the house. Tori's an Alabama fan. I'm sorry, we still love each other. But independent bookstores are somewhere that we're also trying to get it into. So if you have an independent bookstore that you want to make sure we reach out to, let us know.
Okay, so I'm not going to go Roll Tide right now because I'm going to go Roll Tide right now. All right, never mind. So what is it that you hope readers receive from your book? Is it their own epiphany or is it an underlying message?
The first part is definitely encouragement. I really want them to feel a kindred spirit. I think so many times when we've suffered this kind of trauma, or any kind of trauma, we feel alone and we're scared and we feel voiceless. And so I want them to feel a kindred spirit. I want them to feel encouragement. And I also want them to feel a guided path toward healing. And, as LaDaine was saying, and also just a sense of spirit and how God can be in your life. Sometimes we can feel pretty alone. And so that's another piece that I really would want people to pick up.
So what's been the biggest, well, we hit the surprise, but what's been the biggest surprise in the process of writing and sharing of the book?
I think I continue to be amazed at the level of interest from a variety of different places. So like what LaDaine was talking about, that it can speak to supporters. And I love that. I love the fact that all ages are seemingly being touched by it. So I think that's also a really great thing.
Agreed. All right, in these pandemic times, right, do you see yourself having more time to answer email and questions from readers inquiring to you?
Do I have more time to read? I don't know about.
Yeah, do you see that being like a segue? Will you have more time to answer questions?
I'm not sure about the more time, but that's something that I absolutely seek. I mean, my heart just gets warmed up whenever somebody reaches out to me. And the website is survivors2thrivers.com. And somebody could put that in the chat box for me. That'd be great. But it's survivors2thrivers.com. One question that I had asked before that I really want to hit on before we move on to our next piece, because I don't want to run out of time, is that I think it's really important to recognize that during pandemic times, I have a friend that said, if we don't come out of this pandemic 2.0, shame on us. And so I think about the fact that, as hard as the pandemic is, and as isolated as we feel, it can be an opportunity for us to go in and maybe do some interior work that we haven't found the time to do. We haven't taken the time. And so my hope is that this book is coming out at a time that could really be encouraging to people to focus on them and recognize their worth, that their healing and their journey is worth that investment. And so my hope is that people will utilize this pandemic time wisely.
So from a survivor perspective, for the survivors that are struggling with coming forward and getting out of that abusive situation, what would your first step advice be on starting down that road toward healing?
Ooh, so it depends on, so was it they're just now finding their way down the path?
Yep.
Because one of the things that I know for myself is that when you when you're a victim of trauma, it is important to seek a therapist that can help you move what I call from victim to survivor. And that's the look back work. And so the Leslies of the world are really critical to help people do that. And then if you've done that look back and you find yourself in the stuck place of limiting beliefs and unhealthy patterns and just kind of see, oh my goodness, here I go again, making the same bad decision or whatever that may be. That's
Right.
where we can really come in and help with the guiding. And so I think knowing those resources are available. And I know for me, it was so important to have trusted, safe people to support me and believe me and listen to me as I was beginning to explore and walk along this journey. Because sometimes it's hard to get your head around what you learn about yourself.
We have a couple more. So Tammy, during the writing and publishing of your book, you likely had starts and stops and reflections of how to keep moving forward. What were some of your inspirations and reflections from the start and stop movements?
You know, I one of the things that I did, and this might also be in response to your last question, I was a big journaler. And so as things came up for me, I would write them and I would journal and kind of process for myself. And sometimes I would even write and be quiet and still to listen for God's voice to me. And sometimes that would be what would encourage me to move forward. So I think that, and so I actually, my journals are probably this deep. And so I went back and pulled insights and saw my own growth through those journals. And that kind of gave me a beautiful line of sight to say, oh, wow, look how God showed up here and look where I've come and that type of thing. And it's kind of fun to, when I was looking back, just again, seeing the voices of people in my life being my encouragers all along. So I think all of those things were kind of got me going again.
So one more time, what is the website?
Mm-hmm. And you know what, we're going to go, then one of our slides in the future has my email, but it's survivors2thrivers.com. But we're going to have that printed on the slide in just a minute. So
I'm going to answer a question right now. You have a friend who's in Auburn, and we will get that to a local bookstore. Absolutely, we will. Not a problem. All right, so I'm going to move forward unless there's anything else you want to add.
Let's go ahead because I want to make sure we let everybody out in time.
I agree, and we are respectful of everybody's time. And so at this point, we've got some amazing giveaways.
Wait, we haven't done our ask yet.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Move forward with that.
So one of the things we want to do is, with the awakening the light, you think about the image, the light kind of going out and touching others. And so what we want to do is really begin to expand the reach and the awakening the light movement. And so you think about, from a mind, body, spirit perspective, we all know people in each one of those fields. We know people, we know therapists, we know people in the healing medical fields, we know faith leaders. And so I want you to think about those kinds of people that might be in your world that we can begin to reach out to. So kind of expanding the reach in that way. Also from awareness of the book. If you are not a Facebook friend of mine, this is something I learned recently. If you're not a Facebook friend of mine, then you can go to Amazon and Goodreads and put reviews and positive accolades in the talk. If you are a Facebook friend, I will get dinged. They think we're kind of stacking the deck. And so if you're a Facebook friend of mine, then forward it and let people know about the book so that more and more people can be aware. And the thing is, because of the silence and shame that surrounds this topic, we so often end up, we don't know. We have no idea. I can tell you, a lot of my friends out there who have known me for years are shocked that this is my story. And so there are a lot of people in your life who you may not know, but by putting this information out there, they will hear it, they will see it, and they can tap in. So that's something really important as well. So what I would say, this is all kind of a fun little diagram, but you just think about who we can impact it just by sharing it through our own personal network. And so what I would love for each of you to think about is if you could send 2 or more people to me that you would like for me to reach out to, because what we want to do is we want to have a second launch party. We want to invite an even a broader network of people who can then, from the medical community, from the therapy community, from the faith community, so that we can begin to build this awareness and even just excitement around this. And so if you could send it, and that's my email address, Tambry@survivorstothrivers.com. If you could send that to me by October the 14th, because we would like to be able to do this early in November. So we want to get those names in so we can reach out to them and schedule this second launch. Okay, Tori, I think, the one last thing that I forgot to mention is that someone called me, a friend of mine in Birmingham called me and said, Tambry, I was just listening to the radio and, would you be willing to be on a radio show or something like that? The answer is yes. So if you know of any opportunities that you want to share with me to kind of get the word out, please feel free to do that as well. And think about, I mentioned universities that we're reaching out to, community organizations. So please let us know anybody that you think would be willing to engage with us and kind of help spread the message. So having said that, I know Tori is eager to do her giveaways. So we'll let you get started.
No, I'm excited. We've got ECU coming up, so that's awesome. Our first giveaway is from a very talented artist, Emma Mansfield, and she has taken a quote from the book that says, "We are all wounded in some way. What we do with our woundedness defines us. If we learn and grow from our wounds, they can motivate us to claim our going forward story." And that is from Tambry, and that's in the book. And we were so intentional, and Emma was so perfectionistic about making sure that we got the teal and the saffron, the teal from the domestic abuse and the domestic violence awareness.
Sexual abuse awareness color.
Thank you. Yes, and the saffron also as well, from the light and from the moving forward. And so we claim those colors, and we claim that quote, and it's just beautiful. And so this first giveaway is this print. And so so you'll need to move into the chat box at this point. And so the first person to answer the correct question in the chat box is, what is the farthest reach of the book support to win this print? Oh,
Steve.
Oh, Steve Carter got it. Hey, congratulations, Steve Carter. That's awesome. That's wonderful. If you would like a copy of this print, then just email Tambry at survivorstothrivers.com, because those will be available as well. Oh, that's awesome. It was such a beautiful print, and Emma is such a talented artist. So our second giveaway is from Hannah K. Herdlinger. And she has a hope blanket that she has donated for us from Thread Talks. She developed Thread Talks as her outreach to domestic abuse shelters. And so she weaves each of these blankets with the power to change lives and to bring comfort and healing. And a portion of her proceeds are all donated to domestic abuse shelters. And so in order to win this particular hope blanket from Hannah K. Herdlinger, your question is, what was the name of the song that was playing in the Zoom waiting room as you chimed in? We got that. Linda Schilling has got that from Rise Up.
Oh, was it Linda?
Lovely. Lovely. That's awesome. All right. And so I'm going to get a chance to show you what we have next. We have a self-care basket.
Dang, people are fast. I love it.
Going back, I'm showing you the self-care basket. But the most important part of the self-care basket is the Survivor soap that Christy Gannett from Vibey Soap custom designed for us using our colors, using the teal and the saffron to make sure, and it's beautifully woven, and the scent is hydrangea, and it's apple, and it's peach, and it's lavender, and so it's so comforting and soothing, and it's all natural, and it's beautiful soap. So I combined the soap that she designed with a lavender candle, in addition to lavender lemonade tea with provided by True Honey Teas with a honey stir. And we also have the Survivor keychain and Survivor stickers provided by Gannett Line Graphics, and a journal so you can capture your thoughts. And so in order to win your self-care, all right, so here you go in your chat room. What was the number of Kickstarter supporters that we've had?
Fontella.
Whoa.
I know it's all Fontella on that one.
All right. Lovely, Fontella. I'm so glad. And we will get these items to you as soon as possible. I am so glad that you guys have had a chance to be with us tonight and celebrate. And feel so good about having been part of helping this resource for survivors as they move forward to heal and to thrive and to look for the light. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for journeying with us tonight. And so I'm going to invite Tammy back in. I'm going to invite Mary Frances in tonight again. And I'm going to invite Mary Frances to close us with a mindful moment tonight.
And I know Mary Frances was having a hard time with her feed. So Katie, can you make sure she's live?
I'm here. I just need Katie Ann to give me permission to start my video.
I did. I'm not sure. Do you have two devices on?
I turned off the other one.
Okay. What would be the name that you are under?
It's probably PUUC.
Yep.
Here we go. There we go.
Sorry, I just had your wrong one.
There we go.
All right.
We had you
see me
first.
now?
There she is.
There we go. So thank you all. I invite you just to take a cleansing breath and to breathe in peace and breathe out love. And invite you to take your candle. And we now extinguish our candles together, so we carry their light and warmth and meaning with us until we meet again. May we share this light with others. And may the smoke from these candles carry love and healing beyond the spaces where we dwell this evening to reach all the survivors we hold in our hearts during this Domestic Violence Awareness Month and every month. Thank you, Tambry, for sharing your story. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know this book has had and will continue to have an impact. It will do much good and it will bring much healing. So thank you all for your presence and support of Tambry and our team. May you go in peace tonight. But before you go, we invite you to listen to this powerful song, and may we all rise up. Blessed be.
Thank you, Mary Frances.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. You can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh. mountains. We can walk it out and mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up. And I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up. I like the waves. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I'll rise up. And I do it 1,000 times again. The silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Mountains, bring it to its feet. Mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up. And I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. And we will rise. We will rise. We will rise. We'll rise. I'll rise up. Rise like the day. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up. In spite of the ache, we'll rise up. And we'll do it 1,000 times again.
I have to smile with all the wonderful messages coming through chat. I'm so glad this time was meaningful for you. We so appreciate all your support and look forward to the names you're going to give us, the encouragement you're going to continue to support this with this effort, and just hope you have a wonderful evening and just so glad you spent the first part of it with us. Have a great evening. While we're on here, I want to just thank all of you for being all my voices and support. Thank you so much for just the warmth and the love you sent through your feeds and the words you had just to share. So thank you for being part of this community. I appreciate you.
Air hugs. Oh, that was great.
So now we just got to get our head around the second launch, which we will do. So bless
Who else,
you.
who else is still on?
Let's see, I'm seeing Emma.
We have quite a few people still on.
Yeah, we do.
We'll go ahead and close down. Thank you all again, and we'll be sending out this recording if you want to watch it again, and for those who are not able to join us. So have a great evening.
You as well. Good night, dear.
Good night.
Good night.